To all the Philly fans that said the Dbacks were going to get swept or that Brandon Pfaadt was going to get lit up by that Phillies offense, I don't hear y'all now.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you can win up to 100 times your money. Download the Sleeper app, use promo code Locked On, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. I'm Millard Thomas, host of this wonderful podcast, multimedia journalist and graphic designer. So please check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com to see all of my latest work. I've been hosting this podcast since 2020, and now I get to see the Dbacks in the NLCS, a very fun and gratifying experience. We're going to be talking about the Dbacks' big walk-off win in segment number 1. Segment number 2, we'll talk about some dislikes and adjustments that the Dbacks need to make from Game 3 heading into Game 4. And then we'll talk about, can the Dbacks actually tie this series up? That's how we'll wrap up today's podcast. But of course, we have to start off with the Dbacks' walk-off win against the Philadelphia Phillies, because all I heard from Philly fans the last couple days, you go on YouTube, you check the comment section, the Dbacks are done. Send them home. Get the brooms out. Dbacks are going to get swept. Brandon Pfaadt, the rookie, he is going to get crushed. You saw what we did to the Zach Gallens of the world, the Merrill Kellys of the world. You think a rookie is going to slow down this Phillies offense? Yes. Yes, I do. Because that's exactly what Brandon Pfaadt was able to do against this Philadelphia Phillies team. And the Dbacks were able to walk it off 2-1. I never wavered. I never lost confidence in this Dbacks team. Of course, heading back to Arizona down 2-0 is an obvious hole, but that didn't mean this series was over. It didn't mean the Dbacks should just, turn in their cleats and just say, you know what, guys, let's try again next season. How many from different sports leagues, how many teams have we seen the last couple years go down 2-0 in the postseason to only come back and win the series, right? I talk about basketball a lot. I remember a couple years ago, the Dallas Mavericks on the road went up 2-0. They were the underdog, and then they ended up losing when they went back to Dallas to the LA Clippers and lost that series. For the Phoenix Suns fans out there, I know you guys remember the 2021 NBA Finals, where the Suns went up 2-0 in the finals, then lost the next 4 games. It happens all the time in basketball. Maybe not as often in baseball, but in baseball, we've at least seen a 3-0 comeback in baseball, right? So in sports where you do have these 7-game series, until one team has 4 wins over the other team, I don't think you can ever say that the series is over. And that's what I was saying the whole time with the Dbacks down 2-0. Yes, it hasn't looked entirely pretty, especially after that Game 2 blowout where you lose 10-0, but after Game 1, I was feeling optimistic heading into Game 2. Obviously, Game 2 didn't go how we wanted it, but I never wavered saying this Dbacks team was done. Let's try again next season. This Phillies team is just utterly better from top to bottom, and they're going to kill this Dbacks young team. I never felt that way. Yes, do the Phillies feel like a team with maybe a little bit more momentum as we headed back to Arizona? Do they feel like a more complete team? Sure. But with how the Dbacks have played the entire postseason and the fact that they've barely played at home, I was like, let's give the Dbacks a chance to at least respond in their home stadium. Of course, if you go down 3-0, I'm probably going to pick the other team. But I was like, let's at least see Game 3 and see what the Dbacks do, because if they come out of Game 3 with a victory, the entire series changes, and all of a sudden we look at the Dbacks as a team that could potentially actually win this series and stop this Philadelphia Phillies team. And now I think that's going to be a little bit of the conversation, because the Dbacks are going to have the next couple of games at home. And so they're going to be in prime position to potentially take the series back to the Philadelphia Phillies up 3-2. Maybe I don't think that is like the most likely outcome, but it's at least in play now. And with, me, of course, going to game number 4 on Friday, I want to say that's going to help my D-backs team with me in the stadium. I would love to see the D-backs tie the game up in person. And when I look back on game 1, there were really 2 MVPs from that game 1. One was Brandon Pfaadt from the pitching staff, and the other was Ketel Marte from the lineup. Brandon Pfaadt, absolutely electric in this game against the Phillies. First pitcher in MLB postseason history with back-to-back starts, allowing 0 runs and 0 walks. Youngest starting pitcher in D-backs history with 9 strikeouts in a playoff start and the 7th most strikeouts by a rookie in a postseason game. Brandon Pfaadt was magnificent. He was attacking these Phillies hitters. This was the Brandon Pfaadt where, when you look at those scouting reports, when we talk to the Lindsey Crosbys of the world of Locked On MLB prospects, right? When they raved about the potential of a Brandon Pfaadt, it was because of that two pitch mix that he has with his fastballs, plus the sweeper, his put away ability, right? It was always about his swing and miss stuff with Brandon Pfaadt. This guy was a K machine in the minor leagues. In the majors, he's been a home run machine, but in game 1 against the Philadelphia Phillies, in game 3 against the Phillies, we got to see that K machine from Brandon Pfaadt, and he just looked absolutely unstoppable. And yes, we'll be talking about the decision for Torey Lovullo to pull. Well, we'll be talking about Lovullo's decision to pull Pfaadt from this game in segment number 2, so I'm going to say my thoughts there. Ketel Marte, MVP from the lineup. Pfaadt, MVP from the rotation pitching staff. Ketel Marte, MVP from the lineup. This guy was phenomenal the entire game. Extra base hit. Then, of course, the big walk-off hit. And he just needed someone to either get on base before him, right? Or get in scoring position after him and bring home Marte. Because Marte was hitting doubles when there was no one on base to bring home. Or he was getting to second base and no one was bringing home Marte. Thankfully, in the 9th inning, someone hit in front of Marte. So Marte was able to get the big walk-off hit. Marte, in his major league career, we have to put some respect on his name as a postseason player. Hasn't had a ton of experience in the postseason, 2017 with the D-backs and this season. But entering today's game against the Phillies, Ketel Marte, career slash line in the postseason, 362 average, 1056 OPS. Ketel Marte is a major postseason player. And we got to see that against this Philadelphia Phillies team. Ketel Marte has been great. He's been the only consistent offensive contributor, I think, in this Phillies series. You look at the Carrolls, the Morenos prior to the NLCS. But in the NLCS, Ketel Marte has been the MVP of this D-backs lineup and offense so far. Now, I do want to give a little bit of credit to Torey Lovullo for a couple of the decisions he did make in this game. I thought the decision to run Thomas for Pham was smart because of Thomas's speed to score on one of those plays later in the game that got the D-backs first run. The Pavin Smith, bring him in to pinch hit. I mean, he went 2 for 2, I believe, in this game. Like, Pavin Smith is typically someone I don't even want to see in a regular season game, but considering he scored one of the 2 runs, he went 2 for 2 in the ball game. I'll give it to you, Torey. Good decision to play Pavin Smith in a pivotal Game 3 NLCS game. I thought Torey did make some savvy decisions when it came to the lineup during the game. I like some of the decisions he made, when to put a pinch hitter in, when to put a pinch runner in. I thought he had a good pulse on the lineup. But overall, did I love Torey Lovullo's execution of the game? I did not. And we'll be talking about some adjustments Torey Lovullo and this team needs to make heading into Game 4 in the next segment. The MLB playoffs are here, which means the clock is ticking on your chance for up to 100 times cash on daily fantasy baseball. Baseball has never been more exciting than it is now, with studs like Acuna, Betts, and Ohtani. Pick more or less stats for these stars like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and more for up to 100 times payout on Sleeper. Get your picks right and you can win big. The reason I love Sleeper is not just for the daily fantasy baseball aspect, but football season is here and I use it for that because my Dynasty League is on Sleeper. It archives my players year to year. The rookie draft is on there, so it's perfect for everything. Daily fantasy sports, trying to win money, or long-term leagues like Dynasty is also fantastic for sleeper as well. So use promo code Locked On and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Please use promo code Locked On at sleeper.com. And don't forget to catch every Dbacks pitch on their hometown broadcast when you download the Sirius XM app and search up Diamondbacks. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Let's discuss some things that we didn't like from this game number one. Game number three, some adjustments that the D-backs need to make heading into game four, because even though the D-backs got a huge 2-1 victory, there was a lot of moments of throughout this ball game where I just sat, because I was watching this in my work office. I work for the Arizona Coyotes, of course, so everyone was like gathered around watching the television. I was the only one rooting for the D-backs because everyone, of course, they want the Coyotes home opener to sell tickets, which I totally respect, but I couldn't help but root for the D-backs because I want to see them go deep into the postseason, and I want all the Arizona teams to eat. I want the Coyotes to eat with their home opener on Saturday, then I want everyone to go bum rush the D-backs playoff game that night. And watching this game in the office, it was very frustrating to watch because just sitting there, I never felt like the D-backs were going to get that big hit. I never felt like the D-backs were actually going to complete the victory against the Phillies, because all they've done all series long is just squander opportunity after opportunity. And I was just getting so frustrated watching the D-backs put themselves in position to take the lead, put themselves in position to win the game, but time and time again, if it wasn't Ketel Marte getting a big hit, felt like no one on this D-backs team was going to get the big hit, and that was just really disappointing to see. As close as this game was, it never felt, until the D-backs actually came through in the ninth, I never had the utmost confidence that the D-backs were going to win this game, just because as the game went on, I was like, this D-backs offense just continuously is not coming through in the big moments, and it just made me more and more anxious as the game went on. But thankfully, the D-backs were able to get a couple run scoring opportunities in the last 3 innings, and they were able to come through just enough to deliver themselves a big win and potentially set up evening up the series in game 4. But let's talk about some specifics of what I didn't like in game number 3. First one is the one that everyone's going to be talking about. Why did the D-backs pull Brandon Pfaadt? This pissed me off when I saw Torey Lovullo come out the dugout to come get Brandon Pfaadt. Pfaadt was, like we described in segment number 1, absolutely fantastic. He only needed one more out in the 6th inning. Why not at least let him finish the inning? This is the same issue that we had in game 2, and Torey Lovullo just didn't learn from his mistakes, which is the most frustrating thing. Merrill Kelly wasn't even dealing on the level of Brandon Pfaadt, but he looked really good in game 2. For the most part, made a couple mistakes that led to home runs, but for the most part, Merrill Kelly was doing good, and he settled down in those later innings, and he just needed to get Bryson Stott out to get himself out the game. Torey Lovullo, of course, pulled Kelly, then it all went to crap when the bullpen came in, and it could have happened again for the D-backs in game number 3 because Brandon Pfaadt was just dealing. He's been the first pitcher I've seen all postseason shut down this Phillies lineup from a starting pitching perspective. Pfaadt was in the 6th inning, only needed 1 out, and he was at 70 pitches thrown total. To have 9 strikeouts and to be in the 6th inning and only have 70 pitches thrown, like, this guy was so efficient, worked through so many quick innings, and it's like, we haven't seen a D-backs pitcher yet look this confident and pitch this well against this Phillies lineup. Why would you not keep him out there? That's when I have an issue with analytics and just sticking to your game plan and not doing the feel at all for the game. Like, what do your eyes tell you is going on in the game? I, of course, knew Brandon Pfaadt was going to have a quick hook, but when he's pitching the way he is, I think you have to make adjustments. I understood more in the last game because he was coming off that that game one start against the Brewers, we struggled. So against the Dodgers, you're like, we don't know how Brandon Pfaadt's going to look in this start. We know he can be really shaky, and if he gets shaky early, we're going to pull him early. So I understood that going against the Dodgers, but knowing he did that against the Dodgers, you thought maybe let's just give him a little bit more of a leash heading into game number 3. Of course, he's still going to have a quick hook, but after you saw him dominate inning after inning after inning, you would have at least thought, hey, let's keep him out there for one more out. Let's save the bullpen a little bit longer. As long as Brandon Pfaadt's dealing, I don't see a reason to take him out. Torey Lovullo, I guess, did see a reason to take him out. And then what happened in the very next inning? Phillies go up 1-0. Thankfully, the D-backs were able to come back, but that was the first really big issue that I had in this game. And the fans had an issue too. Before they gave Brandon Pfaadt a standing ovation, they first let Torey Lovullo hear it. Everyone was booing. Even Jeff Passan was calling out Torey Lovullo on Twitter. And it's because we've seen this right from the Dave Roberts of the world. Not Dave Roberts, the Kevin Catches of the world. When he pulls Blake Snell out the World Series when he's dealing. Like, obviously, Brandon Pfaadt's not on a Blake Snell level, but the way he pitched, you wouldn't have known. Brandon Pfaadt looked like the best starter that the D-backs had, and I just don't understand why we had to pull him so early. Brandon Pfaadt should have at least been allowed the opportunity to get that final out in the 6th inning, because we did see the Phillies immediately go up in the very next inning. Absolutely disgusting. The second thing that I really didn't like from this game was the D-backs just wasting run-scoring opportunities, like I said, to start this segment. You just can't do that against this Phillies team, and when you have first and third, nobody out, you just have to come through in that situation. I just hated how the D-backs handled both of their handled their first and third opportunity with nobody out in the 7th, and then they had a second, third, nobody out opportunity in the 9th inning. I just hated how the D-backs handled both of it, because I don't understand why the D-backs didn't run on contact when it was first and third, nobody out in the 7th. I think that should have been the opportunity to do it. Not when it was second and third, no outs in the 9th. I think that was the worst opportunity. I think that was the wrong decision to run on contact in that moment, because I would have preferred Gurriel not to take off in the 9th, because at least the winning run would still be 90 feet away. Yes, you record that out at first base, but you still got a runner on second, and your runner on third with just one out. You're still just a sac fly away, maybe a sacrifice bunt away from winning the game. So I just think that out at home in the 9th inning is a lot more impactful than if it happens in the 7th inning. I think you would have been okay if you send Gurriel in the 7th instead of the 9th, because at least if you send him in the 7th inning and he gets thrown out, then guess what? Let's keep him in the 9th, because Gurriel does not have the speed to beat out a grounder, because we saw it twice. Emmanuel Rivera grounded a shortstop in the 7th. Gurriel didn't go, so the D-backs were like, you know what? In the 9th, we're going to send him this time when Emmanuel Rivera grounds out to shortstop. And guess what? He gets thrown out in the 9th. You send him in the 7th, at least okay, he gets thrown out here. Maybe we shouldn't send him in the 9th when we get the same opportunity. And if you do send him in the 7th, you at least break up the instant double play. And maybe Pavin Smith is still quick enough to make it to third, so you could at least potentially run back another first and third with one out. I just didn't think it made any sense to not run in the 7th, but then to run in the 9th when making that out at home in the 9th. It's just way more valuable in that situation, way more impactful than if you were to do it in the 7th inning. So I just didn't understand that from the D-backs perspective. So when I look at Torey Lovullo and some of the decision making he had with his guys on the base pass, like, why are we still not sending some of our speedsters? Luckily, Gurriel was able to get a big jump in this game, but we need to be more aggressive on the base pass. And doing it with Gurriel, sending him home in the 9th inning, second, third, nobody out, that's not the situation to do that. Maybe if it's Carroll in that moment, but not Gurriel. He's just not quick enough to do that. So didn't like the D-backs doing that there. But overall, Torey Lovullo had himself some good decisions, had himself some bad decisions in this one. And we're going to be talking about the potential for the D-backs to tie up this series based off what we saw from the first 3 games and some of the likes and dislikes from game 3. We'll talk about, do the D-backs actually have a realistic chance to tie up this series in game 4? Today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. You want to make sure you have these on hand. Jace Medical does the delivery, the consultation. They really handle all the behind the scenes stuff. So go to Jace Medical, get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. And don't forget to catch every Dbacks pitch on their hometown broadcast when you download the Sirius XM app and search up Diamondbacks. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Let's talk about if the D-backs can tie up this series, because heading into Game 3, everyone was riding off the D-backs. Everyone in my office was like, "Oh, how do you feel, Millard? Look at the D-backs down 2-0. They're done." Every Phillies fan in the YouTube comment section, "Oh, how do you feel now, Mr. D-back? Do you still believe in your team?" Yes, I do. I never stopped believing in this team because I didn't think this team was going to make the playoffs this season, entering the year. My expectation level for the D-backs, as I've talked about many of times, just be a 500 ball club. They exceeded my expectations there by being tied for first place in the first half of the season and then still making it in the playoffs as a wild card team. Then I was like, you know what, D-backs? I think you're good enough to beat the Brewers, but I don't think it's a guarantee. Let's see how it goes. They end up beating the Brewers in a decided sweep. They look good. They go on to face the Dodgers. I'm like, all right, D-backs, I thought you could beat the Brewers. You did, but now against the Dodgers, the big brothers, the big bullies, take a game, I would be happy. Just don't get swept like you did in 2017. If you win a game, everything outside of that and after that is gravy. What did the D-backs do? They did more than just win a game. They never surrendered a lead in the series. And now, after exceeding my expectations from the regular season, the wild card round, the NLDS, do you think I was just going to write off this D-backs team after just 2 games? It wasn't going to happen. Now the D-backs in game number 4, the game I'm going to be at and rooting for my team, I get a chance to see the D-backs potentially tie up the series. And it's not going to be easy to do it. I'll say that, because in a bullpen game does make me a little bit nervous. I need the bats to come out. I think the Phillies offense potentially could show up in a big way, because you're going to have Joe Mantiply on the mound to start the game. Big bullpen game. A lot of relievers for the D-backs going into game 4 that we're going to see. They're going to have to put on their best performance of the postseason to try and slow down this Philadelphia Phillies offense, which is never easy. But what I do want to say is, when you look at this Phillies offense and you look at the splits, home road, this Phillies offense, quite different when you look at their stats at home versus on the road. This Phillies offense at Citizens Bank Ballpark, OPS over 1,000 this postseason, the best in the postseason. They have the best offense in the majors this playoffs when they are at home. You know who's second, though, in OPS at home this postseason? The Arizona Diamondbacks. Put some respect on their name. But when you look at this Phillies OPS on the road, it doesn't just, drop a little bit. It falls off a cliff. Their OPS is just below 600 when they're on the road. So basically like a 400 plus point difference from the OPS for the Phillies offense at home versus on the road. Like, that is dramatic. That is almost like 2 different teams depending on the ballpark. And when we look at the D-backs, it's not like that. Yes, their OPS is over 100 at home, and it falls off like 100 points, but still like over 700 on the road. It's not like they're an entirely different team. Yes, their offense doesn't play as well on the road, but I think that is expected. I think it makes sense for a team to be better at home versus the road, but a team shouldn't be looking like the Olympic team or an all-star team when they're at home and then look like the Oakland A's were on the road. And that's kind of what happens to this Philadelphia Phillies offense, at least this postseason. Dramatic big difference with the Phillies numbers statistically from the offense, both at home and on the road. So for this D-backs bullpen game, they have a chance to win it just because it's at Chase Field and not at Citizens Bank Ballpark. If this was a bullpen game in Philly, I would not like the D-backs' chances with the Joe Mantiply starting the game and then some of those D-backs relievers that might potentially get thrown out the pen after that, because I'm a little scared of who we might see after Joe Mantiply. Maybe you stay lefty heavy, go like Kyle Nelson, because I think the D-backs probably prefer to throw lefties against some of those Phillies batters, because I think you probably like lefties better against the Bryce Harpers and the Kyle Schwarbers than attack with righties against the Trey Turners and, the Nick Castellanoses of the world. I think you'd rather try to go with your lefties and slow down the Harpers and the Schwarbers of the world. But I also wouldn't be surprised, if Joe Mantiply gets that 1-2-3 inning, then you go with the righty right after him. And if the D-backs do try to choose one of their young starters out the pen to go out to Joe Mantiply to potentially steal some innings, I want the record to show I do not want to see Ryan Nelson out there. I feel if Ryan Nelson out there, it's going to be a bad omen and it could get ugly real fast. I just don't trust Ryan Nelson. He's just someone who is kind of like Brendan Pfaadt, but just not as talented. And so when his stuff is not working, just like Brendan Pfaadt, he's given up a lot of hard contact, a lot of, some balls over the fence as well. And so if we had to choose a potential young starter, long reliever to go after Mantiply, to go potentially like 3 innings and save the bullpen a little bit, I would prefer a Slade Cecconi over Ryan Nelson. I just want to see him more. I trust him more. I have more confidence in him. So I would like to see a Slade over Ryan Nelson. If it comes between those two guys and Torey Lovullo has to make a decision between one of them, I also want to know what Torey Lovullo is going to do with this lineup, right? Because after you pinch hit Pavin Smith for 2 hits, does that mean Pavin Smith now gets an opportunity to start in game number 4? I can't even believe I'm asking the question, but I'll take anyone who's hot at the plate. And if Pavin Smith can carry over at least 1 hit into game number 4, maybe he should start. Does Torey Lovullo want to mess with third base again? Put Longo back there or keep Emmanuel Rivera? Maybe move Perdomo to third and then bring Jordan Lawler to shortstop. I don't know. Do you want to move around the outfield again? Put Thomas back out there? Keep Pham in the DH spot? I don't know. So a lot of question marks still for the D-backs heading into game 4, but at least for the D-backs now, they got a win on the board, and they at least have the opportunity to even up the series, which is all you can ask for at this point in the postseason. I don't care how it looks. I just want to keep racking up the dubs all the way to the World Series. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. I will be doing probably a little mini reaction podcast after the D-backs victory Friday, after they tie up the series. I want to be talking a whole lot of trash, hopefully. That's what happens with the D-backs on Friday. I want to continue to talk trash to this Phillies fan base, because the fan base has been talking trash all series long. And against the Dodgers fans were quiet in the comments section. I was not talking trash during the Dodgers series until it ended. Best believe after every D-backs win this series, I might say a little something to those Phillies fans, because they have been incessant. I don't even know the word I'm trying to say there. The Philly fans have been just annoying. How about we say that in the comment section of YouTube? So let's calm those fans down. Let's get another big D-backs victory. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news covered insight. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. No